Thank you. Hello, and welcome to Kaufman Music Center's Merkin Concert Hall. I'm Amy Roberts-Frawley. I'm the Hall's Managing Director. I want to thank each and every one of you for braving the elements for tonight's Times Talk. We are thrilled to be hosting Lady Bird's Greta Gerwig and Saoirse Ronan. And Frank Bruni, we want to thank him for being the moderator. For many of you, this may be a first visit to the center. We are a home for music, with so many concerts for you to delight in, both traditional and adventurous, like our upcoming Ecstatic Music Festival. We're also the home of the Lucy Moses School, the city's largest community music school. You can pick up a new instrument and study it, or you can shake off an old one and come back to it. It's a lot of fun for audience, people of all ages, actually. And for kids, we've got not only music, but dance and theater classes. So, to learn more about us, I encourage you to visit kaufmanmusiccenter.org. Again, thanks for coming, and enjoy the talk.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight and braving the snow and blizzard. My name is Michelle Gray. I'm the Director of Programming for the New York Times live conversation series, TimesTalks, which pairs New York Times journalists with the brightest and boldest creative minds from the fields of film, theater, music, art, fashion, science, and literature. We're thrilled to be welcoming you to tonight's event with this year's most buzzed-about actor and director duo, Academy Award and Golden Globe nominated actress Saoirse Ronan, and Golden Globe nominated screenwriter and director Greta Gerwig. The two friends and collaborators will discuss their creative process, the importance of female voices in Hollywood, and Lady Bird, their critically acclaimed film that's also the highest rated film ever on Rotten Tomatoes. Moderating tonight's conversation is New York Times op-ed columnist Frank Bruni. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Frank Bruni, Saoirse Ronan, and Greta Gerwig.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you two for joining us, and even more so, thank you for this beautiful, beautiful movie. Very much.
Thank you.
We are going to. We're going to talk for a little while, and then I want to let you know that at the end, we're going to have 2 microphones set up in the aisles. I'll give you a couple minutes warning before they do that, and if you want to ask questions to Greta or Saoirse yourself, you can line up at those microphones, and you'll have an opportunity to toward the end. We're also going to show a couple of clips from the movie, partly because it's just so much fun, and we'll begin with the first clip from Lady Bird.
I want to go where culture is, like
How
New
in the
York,
world did I raise such a
or at least
snob?
Connecticut or New Hampshire, where writers live in the
Get
woods.
into those schools anyway.
Mom,
You can't even pass your driver's test.
because you wouldn't let me practice
The way
enough.
that you work, or the way that you don't work, you're not even worth state tuition, Christine.
My name is Lady Bird.
Well, actually, it's not, and it's ridiculous.
Call me
because your
Lady
name
Bird
is
like
Christine.
you said you would.
You should just go to City College. You know, with your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
So Greta, I'm really confused. When did you meet my mother and eavesdrop on her?
Marion is so many people. It's true. It's very, it's crazy. So many people have come up to me and they're like, I've been that daughter, I've been that mother, I've been both at the same time, and it's amazing to me how many different kinds of women from different periods of their life resonate with the different characters.
Now, I think I've read that you started thinking about making this movie many, many years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about the road to Lady Bird and whether it was a fairly quick or tortured one?
I went to Barnard College here in New York City, and it was there that I fell in love with film, and I decided I wanted to be a writer-director, but I didn't end up going to film school, so I spent a lot of time trying to learn how to make films being on sets. That was how I cobbled together my film school. And I had been writing a lot with Noah Baumbach. I wrote Frances Ha and Mistress America, and he directed those, and I acted in them. And it was somewhere on the other end of Mistress America that I started the script that became Lady Bird. And initially,
And that's how many years ago?
oh God, years ago. I mean, it was, I know that at the end of 2013, there was a 350-page draft on my computer titled Mothers and Daughters. And that eventually became this movie. But it was so long and so boring. And I needed to work on it. So it takes me a long time to write. I wish it didn't, but I think for me it just takes a long time to listen to my characters and let them talk to each other and try to get to the essence of what the people are and what the scenes are and the kind of maximum impact, because movies are limited real estate, and it takes me a long time to kind of distill it.
Saoirse, when did this movie come on your radar, and was it a decision you made quickly, or how did you end up being involved in it?
Yeah, I had kind of decided that it was something that I absolutely wanted to do as soon as I heard Greta's name was attached to it. Because, well, it's true, because, you know, I've always been a huge fan, and we met in 2015 at the Toronto Film Festival. Physically, that's the first time we met, although we were like ships in the night for quite a few months before that. Apparently, we were at the same
She
hotel.
means I saw her across
She
a
saw me
restaurant.
and I didn't see her.
And
She remembers it, I don't.
I remember it vividly.
Yeah, and I remember her in a Golds ensemble at the Berlin Film Festival a couple of years before that.
This
But
is
then-
its own movie.
I know.
I know.
It is. Mothers and Daughters.
It's very one. I feel like I was mostly like gazing at you.
Yeah. I would say that. I would say that. Yeah. We always agree. It's great. No, but I was sent the script, and I knew it was going to be interesting and smart and brilliant because it was Greta's and it was, and then we had a Skype meeting, and it was the giddiest Skype meeting I've ever had, and we just, you know, when you just meet one of those people and you know that you're gonna love each other and work together again and again if she puts me in other films that she's writing, and it was like that. It was just, there was a lot of love straight away, and so then we had about a year before we actually made the film, and it was great because I was off doing other things, but I was in New York, and Greta was able to, you know, send me things like Joan Didion's writing or Frank O'Hara's lunch poems or certain things like that, just to get into that sort of mindset of a girl who's destined for New York, you know.
Why Joan Didion's writings?
Well, Joan Didion's from Sacramento, and as a person who grew up in Sacramento, I remember the first time I started reading her books, and it was a huge moment for me because I had never read a writer who was a woman where I was from, and it was the first moment that I kind of was able to glimpse a reality where I didn't have to be a different person to be an artist, because I think so many of the artists I admired seemed like they lived vastly different lives than I had lived. And when I read Joan Didion, I had this instant recognition of the people she was writing about, the places she was writing about. The novel, her first novel, Run River, she describes a character a character passed away, and two women are talking about it, and one says to the other, well, at least her closet was organized when she went. And I was like, I know those women. They are my women. And it was invaluable to me. She also, I mean, there's so many lines that resonated for me, not just being from Sacramento, but that definitely elevated it.
She seemed to also have a great affection for Sacramento as well, in the way that you do, and Lady Bird realizes later that she does too. You know?
And I think even to make any art about something is an act of love in a way, because you're giving it time.
Yeah.
And So yeah, her writing about Sacramento, even when she's critical of it, is deeply
cares.
felt. Yeah.
Saoirse, you, if I have your biography correct, you grew up mostly in Ireland.
Yes.
Were homeschooled, right?
For a bit, yeah. For a bit.
Did the notion, I mean, there's the American high school experience is such a particular thing. Did the notion of playing an American high school senior, was that daunting? And if so, like, how did you get around that or prepare for it?
It wasn't daunting because I had grown up watching Saved by the Bell, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and That's So Raven. So, being a psychic teenager myself. No, I mean, I think the American, honestly, it did actually really help, but I think American high school culture is its own thing, and even, you know, the short time that I did spend in what we called secondary school or high school back in Ireland, it was actually a Catholic high school, so there were similarities, but it is a different thing. I think even just when it comes to the culture and prom and the popular kids and things like that, that doesn't really exist as much back at home. But you know, even though I joke about it, genuinely, I think Saved by the Bell helped an awful lot, you know.
How Saved by the Bell inspired Lady Bird.
It's-
Yeah. No.
Well, there's a romanticism to it. No.
No. I have a very actually like different relationship with Saved by the Bell. I was raised without television.
You have a relationship with Saved by the Bell?
Yeah. I have a relationship. I was raised without television,
Zach and Kelly?
which of course made me only value images on television that much more, which is always what happens with kids who are kept from something. But I remember being in college, and I am the generation that would have gotten Saved by the Bell, and everybody knew everything about it, and I didn't. So then I did the thing that if you're like a good student about social things, you do. I like rented them, and I was like, I'll learn who these people are so I can participate in these discussions. And so I did that, and I sort of passed. But now I'm telling everyone.
So do you have random bits of Saved by the Bell trivia just logged
I
in your
have
brain?
just enough to get by.
To impress.
Just like, I'm
The
so
New York
excited, you know, like, that's it.
Yeah, our
that's
readers are big on Saved
Yeah,
by the
I
Bell.
was going to say,
Yeah.
did you think that we were going to talk about Saved by the Bell for your TimesTalks?
No, but it's a happy surprise, you know?
You're welcome.
Sorry.
America.
Sacramento, that's
Yes,
you.
That's me.
Catholic high school, that's you.
Yeah.
In what ways does Lady Bird diverge most wildly from you?
Well, I mean, in a way, the character of Lady Bird, I mean, to begin with, I never made anyone call me by a different name. I didn't dye my hair bright red. I was much more of like a rule follower and a people pleaser type of child. And I think when I was writing it, it was almost like I was writing this very flawed but real heroine that was brave in ways that I couldn't be, and that I admired her willingness to kind of fling herself at stuff. And I think it wasn't until I saw Saoirse act it that it was like I got to see this creation come to life in front of me, and it was a person I had no ability to be. And then when I saw her start doing it, it was like this excitement, because it was like the girl I wish I could have been, in a way.
Let's play another clip, and then I want to ask you something about your performance. Can we see the second clip, please?
Julie, hey. What do you want from Julie?
Darlene, can you excuse us?
Darlene, stay.
Why aren't you in Algebra 2?
I switched sections.
Why?
Aren't Jenna and Kyle enough?
I'm sorry that you're jealous.
Jenna is a moron, you know.
She's not. She's in AP Calculus.
She's a moron in a deeper sense.
You don't even know her.
Miss Patty assigned you a role, by the way. You just never showed up to claim it.
What role?
The Tempest.
There is no role of the Tempest.
It is the titular role.
No, it's a made-up thing, so we all can participate.
You can't do anything unless you're the center of attention, can you?
Yeah, well, you know your mom's tits. They're fake. Totally fake.
She made one bad decision at 19.
2 bad decisions.
I never knew the word titular could be so funny. Once you were attached to it, once you began talking about it before filming, how much did the character, if at all, change as you talked about her? And are there things we see on screen that reflect the conversations the two of you had about the character before cameras rolled?
Well, I can say, I mean, the script itself didn't change that much, but everything you see on screen is a result of what this collaboration was.
I think it definitely took the two of us coming together to make that. And also, you know, I was the same as Greta when I was 17. I was a good kid and I didn't break the rules or anything. And so I think she is this sort of alter ego for both of us, you know. I don't know, I think we had lots of conversations in cars actually, where we would like drive to rehearsals and things like that. And I think when the physicality started to become a part of it, and also just getting to hang out with Beanie, who plays Julie, and Laurie, and spending time with them, I guess the character was built up from there. One of the things though that I think really came out of our conversations was just like the way she spoke and how she enunciated things, how she would hit things in a sentence, and that kind of set her aside from everyone else. And then the way she moved, she really sort of, Greta says that like this march just was sort of created one day. And you know, the great thing about her is she doesn't know where she's going or what she's going to do or who she's going to be, but she's got this purpose and she's heading somewhere and she just doesn't quite know where it is yet. And there's something really interesting about like seeing that in someone's physicality, you know. So.
Did you ever disagree about anything?
Frank.
Other than Saved by the Bell trivia?
We're only talking about that now.
You know, I mean,
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did, actually. I think so much of, I mean, from the very first time I heard her do it and then all the way through, I mean, the way you know you're on the right track is you just start getting ideas, and there was a quality of every actor in the movie and all the department heads that it was a very kind of, they say in improv, you say yes and environment. It was a lot of co-creating. It was a lot of like, I would throw something out and then she would one-up it and then this would happen. And it was a lot of, it wasn't a lot of like, no, it's not that. It was a lot of like, yes,
sort of based on a feeling, a lot of it, I think, too.
Based on a feeling. And we also, you know, I've had this experience as an actor, and I was so pleased to be able to have it with you, is when I've really worked well with a director, there are moments where they'll say something I was about to say, or I'll say something that they were about to say, and I felt like there was never a day where I felt good about it and Saoirse didn't, or that if she was feeling off, I was like, I know, there's something off. It was like this kind of mind meld, which is ultimately the best version of a collaborative effort. And yeah, when I would just see it on her face, and I was like, yeah, it's not right, and I don't know why. And then we'd sort of have to figure it out together. But we saw the same movie somehow.
You never made me feel unsafe. Like we were talking about this earlier, that the best thing a director can be, if possible, is confident enough so that the actors feel that even if they don't quite hit the right note, they'll be taken care of, and they've got someone's got their back, you know. And we all had yours as well. It was just a mutual support, I think, which made us all feel really safe, because there are so many scenes. I mean, you know, it was quite vulnerable, and I think even for me, like, you know, it was a year where lots was happening, and Greta just totally took care of me and allowed me to be that sort of vulnerable version myself, which was lovely. And I think everyone felt that way, so.
It was mentioned during the introduction about the Rotten Tomatoes milestone and all of that. The movie and you two are being nominated for all sorts of awards. When you're making this movie, did you have any sense the reception would be this?
No.
You didn't have this feeling we were working on something super special that the world is just going to embrace?
We knew it was special.
Well, we knew it was special.
We didn't know we were going to get 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for so long.
No, we knew it was special. Like it had a feeling while we were making it, and I think everyone kind of knew it.
And I think also we are all the type of filmmakers who don't think about that stage, we were thinking about the end product being the movie, you know, as opposed to awards or Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, you know. And so that's just been a bonus, really.
Yeah, I mean, but it was, you know, you make. I mean, we've all been involved with the films and independent films, and you're always, you go out with your best every day. You're trying to make the best thing that you can possibly make, and you hope it connects to people, and you hope it's something that helps them see themselves and see people they love differently. But you don't ever, I never thought that this would happen like it has happened, and I couldn't be more proud and more, of the work that we did, and I couldn't be more grateful that it's been embraced this way. But it was not. That was not what we were talking. We weren't talking about our future tomatoes.
No. We're happy to have them there.
I know.
All of them.
All of those
all
tomatoes.
100 of them.
I think it's 99 tomatoes now.
It's not. Yeah, that's what I heard too.
We lost a tomato.
We lost a tomato.
How hard was it to get it made? I mean, we all know the stats on how few women get the chance to direct movies. It's not easy to get financing for movies. How hard was this one to get made?
Well, I think for me, it was, it's like, I think it's how a lot of film financing goes, or if you're an entrepreneur and it's a startup company, it's like nothing and then a lot at once. So it was, I'd written the script, I'd had readings with friends of mine who are actors here in New York, who just to hear it out loud and to kind of make tweaks, and then I involved my, a woman who's my manager, Evelyn O'Neill, and I asked her if she wanted to produce the film, and she had actually never produced a film, but she'd gone to film school, and I'd never directed one, but I figured between the two of us, we could really figure this out. And we started going around to financiers and talking to them, and I would give them the script. I had a whole lookbook I made, and I had a mission statement, and we just got no's, polite no's. Actually, they never say no. You just, it's
What's the most creative no
soft,
you heard?
The most creative, it's a lot of like, it's not for us right now. And I was like, right now meaning ever. And I was like, okay, so you're not saying like later. And then the producer Scott Rudin found out that I had a script, and he called after it, and he and Eli Bush, his producing partner, read it, and then they came to Evelyn and I within, I think, 11 hours and said, yes, I like this, let's make it. And
then you were off to the races.
And then it was off to the races. And then, I mean, from that moment, then it took, time to get the cast together and time to prepare for it. But once they said yes, it happened. But there were a lot of no's in there. But I think that's just how it goes.
We have, there's been a lot of discussion, debate over recent years about the female gaze. And, do we get different stories with different perspectives that feel very different, in TVs and movies, in television shows and movies, when they're directed by, conceived by, written by women. Do you think Lady Bird is a movie that could only have been made by a woman?
Oh, I'm not sure I can make that statement with complete assurance, because I think just as I see actors able to inhabit so many different people, and novelists are able to channel so many different parts of themselves, I don't want to say that it could have never been made this way by man. But what I can say is that the character of Lady Bird, and something that I did almost unconsciously, and that when I saw Saoirse do it, I really felt I suddenly realized when I was watching her do it, I was like, she is the person doing the looking. She is not the object being looked at. She's agentive in her own life. She is lustful. She has desires. She goes after things. She's not waiting around for anybody to move her. And that feels obvious, but especially in movies about teenage girls or young women, so many of them are women waiting to be looked at. And I have to believe that it's got to be part of what they've absorbed from, culture of like, you have to be asked to the dance, you can't do the asking, that kind of thing. And I love that Lady Bird is that way, and I'm not certain that a man could have done it. I'm not willing to say they couldn't have, but it is something that was in the script and then Saoirse brought to life, and I was inspired by it even though I was making it.
What do you think?
I think every filmmaker is different and every director is going to have their own take on it. I don't believe that anyone else could have made this exact film because this is Greta's movie, and if there had been one other piece of it that was different with a different person or actor or director or producer even, it wouldn't have been the same film. And I think that's the case with any project, and that's what makes it so special when you get a group of people together who are like-minded, and really it's about that character. And so yeah, I think it's very much a sort of snowflake situation where if any element of that had been different, it wouldn't have been the same film.
I want to read you both something in which Lady Bird is mentioned, and I want to get your reaction to it. It's from the very last day of 2017. It appeared in the New York Times, and this was a paragraph in that story. The three most popular movies at theaters in the United States and Canada in 2017, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Beauty and the Beast, and Wonder Woman, were each driven by female characters, something that has not happened in at least 37 years as far back as full box office data is available. The top comedy of the year, Girls Trip, was also anchored by women, as was the top film to play in limited release, Lady Bird. Is this a hinge moment?
Yeah, even just, I'm a big old sap. Just you reading that makes me tear up. I mean, one of the best parts of taking the movie around to festivals and being able to talk to people is I've gotten to know some female filmmakers. I've gotten to know Patty Jenkins. I've gotten to know Angelina Jolie, who directed First They Killed My Father, and Dee Rees, and Maggie Betts, and Sofia Coppola, and Catherine Bigelow, and Valerie Faris, and it's such great work. It's such great work, and there's such great performances by women as actors, and I really think it is a moment that it's changing, and there's just too many talented people, and there's too much of an appetite for it to not continue to make these movies. But it makes me just happy.
Do you think? Saoirse, do you think we're heading into a whole new era?
Yeah, I do. I think even just having you read out more than one or two films that focus on women or are made by women, the fact that there's so many, as Greta says, there's so many. Even I always go back to the show Big Little Lies, and I loved the message of it, more so even than, the story itself was brilliant, but the fact that Reese and Nicole and Shailene and all these brilliant people came together and they were equally able to shine, that sends a great message, and these movies have made money, and I know that that's what a lot of industry people tend to pay attention to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's not our focus, but they did well, and that's incredible, and I think it's something that just can't be ignored now.
Yeah, and also, I'm just, Saoirse's a younger generation than I am, and I just remember, I'm telling you, I've said this, but she's going to direct, and she wants to do it, and it made me so proud at the end of shooting when she's like, I want to do it, and I was like,
but that's
you're going to do it.
You, though. That is because of you.
Guys.
Honestly, I'm going to cry now, but I have grown up doing this, and I'm going to cry. I've grown up doing this, and I've worked with brilliant directors, men and women, and I've always wanted to try my hand at directing, but only honestly since I've watched you do all of this and talk about the movie that you've made and how you made it and the work you put into it, I had this epiphany. It was over Christmas, and I just kind of thought like, oh, maybe I can be a great director too, you know? And that's the incredible thing about this, is that, you know, yes, I'm somebody who's worked in film for most of my life, but I'm still a young woman. And so for all other young people to see the women that you've mentioned be great, it changes our perspective of ourselves. It really has changed my mindset, and I'm a confident person, but it's changed my perspective on what I can do and what I can succeed in, and that's because of you, so thanks.
Guys. I mean, I have to say, I mean, when I really got, I was a few drafts into the movie, but when I really got it in gear to make it was after I'd worked with Rebecca Miller, who directed me in Maggie's Plan, and she wrote it too. And there was something about it, I don't think there's anything quite like seeing it to change something in you on a kind of granular level. And that's why it's so exciting. It's so visible right now.
Yeah.
This has been obviously the conversation this year has been big about women in another way, which is the broken silence of a lot of women who've worked in Hollywood about the way they've been treated. Did everything that came out around that surprise the two of you? Was it consistent with things you've seen? What did you make of it all?
Well, I wasn't surprised. I was disappointed that this has been allowed to go on for so long, and so many people that I know and so many people that I respect have felt unsafe. In the way that we mentioned, it's so important for everyone on a film set or in any industry to feel safe in order to do their best work and be a good co-worker with other people. But the thing that I've found is that it's actually made me rethink my experiences or things that I've seen on set. I was very lucky that I was very much protected by my parents, and my mom was always there, so I was very lucky in that way. But it's made me go back and kind of go, oh no, that shouldn't have happened, and when that producer told you to keep quiet about that thing, that's not okay, and that's inappropriate. And it's so crazy how actually, it's very dangerous to think that that actually went over my head, you know, until we started talking about it and until all of these incredibly brave people have come out, so.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, both the rethinking and then also, I mean, it felt like all of a sudden, like being able to see a different color that I hadn't. It's like, oh, you know, like if I hadn't been able to see orange, and then all of a sudden I saw orange, and then I thought, oh my God, it's everywhere, and I've seen it my whole life, and I didn't have a name for it. That was the thing, and that's why you kind of look back and look forward. But I mean, I'm so grateful to the leaders of the conversation and also the way that it's being used now to promote real change and real movement in the industry and in all industries, because it's just so important and it's so past time.
I want to show one more clip just because it's fun to show them. And then I'm going to ask them one or two more questions. But as the clip ends, anyone who wants to ask a question, please line up at one of the two microphones. And so that more people will have the opportunity to ask questions, please try to keep the questions kind of brief and on point. Can we see the last clip from Lady Bird?
I love it.
Is it too pink? What?
Why can't you say I look nice?
I thought you didn't even care what I think.
I still want you to think I look good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was telling you the truth. You want me to lie?
No, I mean, I wish that you liked me.
Of course I love you.
But do you like me?
I want you to be the very best version of yourself that you can be.
What if this is the best version?
repeat, when did you meet my mother? Laurie Metcalf.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How soon before filming began did the two of you meet, Saoirse? And did you get to spend much time together before cameras rolled?
It was in New York.
It was in New York.
Yeah.
We met in Greta's apartment, and we sat on the floor for a few hours and looked through Greta's high school photo albums.
Oh, your actual ones?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had I gave them that to look at. I just wanted them to hang out. It was a few months
Yeah.
before we started shooting, and Saoirse was in New York on Broadway in The Crucible, and I'm not positive why Laurie was in New York at that moment, but
I think she was workshopping something or something like that.
I threw you guys together, and I mean, she's just she's really one of my favorite actresses, and I'd known her mainly from stage. Again, I didn't have television, so I knew her as a stage actress, and I mean, I remember I talked to when I was going to meet with her, and I was doing press, I think, with Ethan Hawke, and I said I knew he'd worked with her on a play. And I said, can you tell me anything about her? And he was like, you are going to meet with Laurie Metcalf? And I was like, yes, what? And he's like, and he took me by the shoulders and he said, if you are so lucky that woman should work with you, you will see what a true artist is. And she is doing what we're all just pretending to do. And he like released me, and I was like hired. No, I mean, but he's totally right about it. And what was so fun is, Saoirse and Laurie, they're like two great athletes when they're in a scene together, and it's that level of pleasure watching them act, and it's sort of, I felt like the entire crew and, my DP and my first AD, it would just be like, watch this. And it was just amazing. It's just thrilling. I love watching actors.
You both, even before this, but especially after this, can probably do anything you want. How do you decide what to do next and what is immediately up next for each of you? And then we'll go to audience questions.
I don't know what I'm going to do next. I did Mary Queen of Scots last summer, which I had waited 5 years to do, and I finally got to do it, so that was brilliant. And the great thing about that was that I had time to get ready for it, like 6 months to prepare, and so I think I want to try and do that as much as possible. I think when something like this happens as well, it's really important to know when to say no. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do next.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know yet. I'd like to direct another film, but I would also like to try to figure out how to produce other people to do that, because there's so many, especially new filmmakers or writers I know that I feel like really need a crack at it, and I don't know how one goes about that yet, but I'm figuring it out, and I'd like to do that in addition to continuing to direct, because I think it's a way that you can amplify other people's voices and stories, and that's where I think I'd like to go in addition to continuing to make my own movies.
Also, just getting to work with your friends too. If you can do that as much as possible, I think that's a goal.
Are we friends?
I guess so. Let me think about it.
Well, while you guys are deciding, we'll take some audience questions. We'll start on that side and then go back and forth.
Hi. I'm going to try and be as concise as possible, but there might be some mumbles. You often say, Greta, that Lady Bird is a love letter to Sacramento. I'm from San Jose, California, and I moved here after seeing Frances Ha to study acting and directing, so thanks for that. And sort of watching it again, I was just wondering, because you also say that your style is very improvised. So when writing Lady Bird, did you have these specific shots of the romantic Sacramento in your head sort of already planned out? Or was it sort of when you went there was like a rekindling of that nostalgia that sort of like spurred these images for you that you wanted to put into this film?
Oh, well, I'm so glad you're from San Jose.
Yeah, NorCal, hey.
Well, my scripts themselves are very like set. I don't, as an actor, I've done a lot of improvisation in different movies, but my scripts themselves are, I don't allow for a lot of changes. Mm-hmm. I like the words said word for word. And I always, She doesn't let me get away with anything. But I had a feeling of wanting to make a movie set in Sacramento, and it was out of the love that I felt for it. And very early in starting to talk about how I wanted the movie to look, there's a couple of Northern California painters, Wayne Thiebaud and Gregory Condos, and the sort of colors, they painted a lot of the Sacramento Delta, the rivers, the way that they look. Henry Wessel was a photographer who photographed like some Southern California, but also Northern California, and his framing was really informative for me. And I had these images in my mind of what I wanted the movie to look like and feel like, and I had a need that it not look gussied up, that it looked, Sam, my cinematographer, and I would always say that we wanted every shot to look plain and luscious, and that was something that we spent a lot of time on, and I knew the specific locations I wanted to get and the places I wanted to show, and I had this feeling that, just like with the characters, if you show characters honestly, they will be beautiful, and if you show a place honestly, it will be beautiful. But there was nothing that beat being there with a film crew. It was great, and it really was like a full circle moment.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi.
No.
Oh, I just
no, it's the same. It's your cast.
Stop it.
What's happening?
I love this movie.
It's brilliant.
So high school theater, particularly high school musical theater, plays a huge role in this movie, which is part of why it was so real and almost scarily personal for me to watch. I was wondering why you chose Merrily and Tempest or Giants in the Sky or whatever, and like maybe so why you chose them, and then what it was like to rehearse and perform.
Yeah. Well, I love Stephen Sondheim. He's my favorite. Like those, and Merrily We Roll Along is my favorite musical. I mean, there's something about that original cast recording that just the opening chords make me just instantly start weeping. I find that there's something about it, even though for the people who don't know, Merrily We Roll Along, it's like a story told in reverse. It starts with these three friends when they're adults, and then it moves back in time, and it ends with them graduating high school. And there's something about the way the time moves in it, like time is flying away from you, that I wanted to create in this movie. And it's this kind of ache of you're not able to hold on to it. And so I felt like I'm going to use this musical, and the people who know will know, and the people who don't know, it's okay. It's fine. I'm fine with it. And I had written that musical into the script, and I had no idea what I was going to do if I didn't get it. And I was very lucky that Sondheim gave his permission. And in terms of rehearsing, that was the most bonding. I hope it was, because it seemed like it was.
Yeah.
Because we made 4 or 5 full musical numbers for what ended up being about 12 seconds, but I was like, I need it, because I know that if I don't have it, it'll look faked. And so I needed the whole thing, and it was so fun.
I've never seen you so happy.
I loved it.
She was so happy.
I loved
It was
musicals.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And I haven't come from a musical theatre background at all, so it was like an explosion of like sound and colour, and it was amazing.
But Beanie Feldstein, who plays Julie, she's in Hello, Dolly, and she's incredible. I mean, she's a genuinely brilliant musical theater performer, and it was so fun to geek out with her over the different songs and the moments, and it was great. I love musicals.
Do you?
Oh yes. You see, this is what she does. She makes fun of me.
It's because we're friends.
We also have some questions from Facebook viewers, so we're going to layer a few of those in. Ruby, we can't see them.
Okay.
They're somewhere. They're in the ether.
All right.
Ruby from Facebook asks, this is a question both of you can answer, what, if any, films did you reference or were you influenced by during the making of Lady Bird?
Well, for the moment where she's waiting on Kyle to collect her, to take her to the prom, we thought about, it's Pretty in Pink, isn't it? When she goes out to the car at the end, and he's out there waiting for her, and I think Lady Bird is expecting that, which is not what happens. But I think for me, it was, as Greta says, that like the movie that's going on in Lady Bird's head is not the movie that we're watching. And so, it was quite good to watch the romantic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else.
No, for me, well, I remember showing Timothy, for Kyle, the character he played, Eric Romer movies. I showed him My Night at Maud's because he was like, is this guy just a jerk? And I was like, no, he's just a 17-year-old who's sure he's right. And I was like, and this person has always existed and will always exist. And here's a French movie, and this guy, and watch this. And it's a young man just talking at a woman relentlessly, and it's great. And he was like, oh, okay. And we kind of like referenced that in his style. I wanted the movies in your head to be like John Hughes movies, romantic movies, because we had this thing of, like, she thinks the movie, she knows how the movie ends, is there's one right guy, and she's gonna get him. And the movie is not that movie, but that romantic idealization was what I kind of wanted to go for. And then, I mean, like, there's a ton of movies we looked at for how it looked and how we wanted to shoot it. I mean, I thought a lot about, actually, the documentary Grey Gardens is one of the best mother-daughter movies I think I've ever seen in my life. The way they repeat the same discussions over and over again. There's a movie that takes place in Stockton, California, called Fat City. It was John Huston made it, and the colors in that movie are so Northern California. We looked at that a lot for colors. American Graffiti, also shot in Northern California, just as like that driving around kind of vibe. There's, I mean, a lot of things. It's sort of like the way I think my DP and I developed a language was watching movies and talking about movies. That's what we like to do. But there's so many. I'll just keep saying things long after you're all gone.
Hi. Oh. Hi. Is this on? Okay. I've been like writing stuff on here to try to make a good question, but like Lady Bird wanted to be more than like what she thought her town would make her, and she did end up finding her own happiness with like musical theater, like you mentioned, and Danny ended up cheating on her. And I was wondering do you think that if Danny never hurt Lady Bird like he did, would she have turned away from these things that already made her happy, like her friendship with Julie? Or was she just too like interested in like this artsy, cultured thing like that Kyle and Jenna gave off that made her stray away from originally made her happy?
You know, I think she's in the process of literally trying on new identities to figure out who she is. I mean, she, as a character, renames herself She's trying to self-author whatever she is. And so I don't know that it's, I think it's more inevitable, I think, than anything else, that she's going to reject things that she loves. She's going to come back to the things she rejected. She's going to kind of make these mistakes and try out these different selves, because I think it's something that you do as a young person. I think it's part of being a young person. So I don't think it's, I don't, what happened with Danny, but I don't think, I think it was inevitable that she was going to discard and try something else and then come back. And
we also see her clock Kyle earlier on when she's still with Danny. So I think it's more sort of just being young and figuring things out and sort of being drawn to different people at different times.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Sadly, that has to affect relationships with friends.
Yeah, sadly it does. It's I think that thing of like, I mean, she's rejected, she's in that way of like, she's rejecting everything of the people who love her too. I mean, she's, and part of the journey of the movie, I think, is like, she's saying like, I gotta get out of this town, I gotta get away from my family, I gotta have a whole new life. And what the movie knows and what the audience knows is your town's great, your family loves you, your life is good, and you are waiting for the character to get to the end of the movie so that the character realizes what the movie already knows and what you as the audience knows. And she gets there, but it's painful.
Thank you. Hi. I wanted to ask about music and scoring in the movie and kind of like what influenced you, what helped you write. Did you know you wanted to include the Dave Matthews song from the beginning? And what was it like incorporating that into the writing?
Yes, I did know that I wanted to include the Dave Matthews song from the beginning. I do love that song. I made my dad take me to a Dave Matthews concert when I was 16 years old. He stayed. He didn't just drop me off. I made him stay so that he could appreciate it, which he did. And I chose Dave Matthews. That song was always in my head because to me it was like the most heart-on-your-sleeve song that would be the first song you pretended you didn't like when you got to New York. That would be the song that you're like, I don't know who that is. But I don't like that. And it was something so, it's a beautiful song, it's a romantic song, it's a big song in that way of like the In Your Eyes is for Say Anything. Like it's just out there. And I always knew, I kind of wanted the music to be, like I wanted it to have like earlier songs like that and the Alanis Morissette and the Bone Thugs and Harmony and the Ani DeFranco of like more like the late 90s sound, and then like Justin Timberlake, that song is from that year, but I didn't want it to be all from that year because I didn't want it to be kind of kitschy in that way, because I think the thing about 2002 in Sacramento is you still got your music from the radio and they were still playing hits from the 90s. And then when I was looking to score the movie, which John Bryan did so brilliantly, and he's written some of my favorite movie scores from Punch Drunk Love to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I knew I wanted the movie score to be romantic and almost old-fashioned, very like that it has real melody in it, it has themes in it, that it feels it feels like it belongs to the world of the movie, not the world of the characters, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And John just he wrote this gorgeous music, and I'm not a musician, so sitting with him while he was making it was so much fun, because I would explain an emotion to him, and he would play a chord, and he would say, "Is that the emotion?" I was like, how do you know the chord for the emotion? And that's what he does.
We have another one of those invisible Facebook questions, if that's okay.
Yes.
Natalie asks, and again, this is for the two of you, did you see the mother and daughter as having equal responsibility for the state of their relationship?
I don't
I do.
The state of their...
I do.
Maybe I'm being selfish. And
Well, you think you have more responsibility?
No, I think...
Laurie,
I think
she does.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think Lady Bird's a kid and she's not sensible yet, and I don't know, she's not. I guess though one of the realizations you have as a person later on, once you come out of your teens, is that your parents are actual human beings and they are people and they existed before you came along. But I wouldn't expect her to know all that yet.
She doesn't know all that yet. I don't know, I guess I always sort of, I wanted the audience to feel like, even if they were making terrible mistakes, that you felt like, I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying. Like, you can make, there's like, where's the Sondheim girl? Oh, hi. There's a line in Into the Woods. God, you guys, I'm gonna cry while I sing it. No, it's people make mistakes, fathers, mothers, people make mistakes. Everybody makes one another's terrible mistakes. And that line always makes me cry because it's like, yeah, you're gonna make some bad ones. I don't think anybody ever gets out of raising a child and says, that was great. I think you're just like all the time sort of, figuring it out as you go. And I think, Laurie's character of Marion makes mistakes, but she loves her daughter, and she makes the mistakes almost out of love. Like, have I prepared you? Are you ready? Or did I mess it up? And you're gonna go into the world half-formed. Someone said, like, oh, she's so hard on her after she got suspended. I was like, yeah, but her daughter just told a lady that she wishes she had been aborted. Like, that requires maybe some yelling at that moment, just in context. And I think that's, I don't know that they're equally responsible for the good and the bad,
We're going to be able to take just one more question from each side, so I apologize to other people who are lined up, but we'll take one more from there and then one more from over here, and then we've got to pack it in.
Hi, Greta and Saoirse. Thank you for making this great movie. I'm Roxy, and I'm from China. So the most obvious thing I relate to myself to this movie is that I actually used to have an English name called Christine. So I picked this name up randomly on my English textbook when I started learning English, and I used it for more than 8 years. So it's a given name given to me by sorry. But the thing is, when I moved to New York 3 years ago, I actually changed my name back to my Chinese name because I feel like I need the identity here. And so I think it's in some sense similar to the plots where Lady Bird changed her name back to Christine at the very end of the movie and started visiting the Catholic Church. So when I was in theater watching the movie, I heard someone said, "Oh, it's pathetic," but I don't think so. I think it's like.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry. It's just one opinion. So. But I don't think so. I think it's like finding your roots, and it's beautiful. So I wonder, what do you think of this nostalgia thing?
I love it. That's beautiful about choosing a name and then going back. Yeah, I mean, I'd always seen the end of the movie as her reclaiming the name that she was given by her parents, and I wanted her to go to the church, but not stay there. It's where she's from. It's her roots. It's this place that's given her meaning, and it connects her back to her past. And then to take that moment and have it wash over her, and then say thank you. It does take me a long time to write, but the ending was very clear to me. And I remember that person who said pathetic, they can keep their tomato. But, you know, I always have the negative voice in my head when I'm writing. I always have the voice that's like, is it too, this thing or that thing? Like I'm always criticizing what it could be. I'm trying to take it apart. And, you know, I had a feeling, I always know I'm onto something when I feel kind of vulnerable when I'm writing and I feel like maybe it's just silly. Like that feeling is a good feeling, and it's a hard feeling to have because you're not sure, because it feels like, you know, singing a love letter to the world or something. But I think it's exactly because there is a person who would sit in a theater and say pathetic.
Oh,
no, I'm just saying that like that's why I make it. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, yeah, it's all out there. It's the big move. But yeah, the reclaiming the name. It always, every time she says it in the party, I've watched it when you cut it together, when you say, Christine, my name is Christine, and you see Saoirse own it, it always moves me.
Yeah, it moved me too, thank you.
Sir, last question to you.
So I moved to New York about 3 weeks after I saw Lady Bird, and yeah, I credit the film with giving me the courage to make a decision that I'd been too scared to make on my own, in part because just the ending about how leaving home doesn't mean that you don't love it. In fact, that sometimes you have to leave it to discover how much you love it. And it was just so beautiful to me. And I'm just curious, you know, how long did it take you to have that realization? Did it come as soon as it did for Lady Bird in the film?
I feel like I sort of keep having it in different ways. Again and again, there's so many things that you know, I'll realize was beautiful, or I'll realize a person gave me a gift of something that they did or supported me, or, you know, and I think at each age I reach, I realize it again because I'm, you know, I'll start reaching the age of a teacher I knew, or a parent who is a friend of the family, or my mom, and I'll think, oh, they did this. So I feel like it's all the time, it's more and more, it's just grown for me. I don't know if I had it immediately when I arrived. What I did have when I arrived is I had the first night I was here, and I realized I didn't know anybody at all. I thought to myself as I was going to sleep, I was like, well, childhood's over. Like, whatever that was, it's gone now, and those are your memories. So I kind of did have the impact of that. It's like, oh, it's gone. And I remember feeling like wanting to run back, but realizing there was nothing to run back to, really, because you can't run back into childhood. So there was that edge of a feeling, but then I like pushed it away and joined debate team. But I'm so glad you moved here.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Saoirse, Greta, thank you so much for spending the night with all of us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.